The materials and content shared on this podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, wellness, and diet, and is intended only for general informational purposes. It is not to be considered a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please always consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.
Friends, I don't know how many times I have to tell you people about customizable 48-page pocket notebooks from who? You know who. Jack Prince, that's who. Pocket notes are now available in 3 customizable styles. One's going to be perfect for you. There's the classic pocket notes, or the larger pro notes, and the new reporter style flip notes. Oh, just flipping through my notes. Never mind me getting the scoop like Billy on the Beat. 100% your branding with your choice of 3 interior page styles, blank, grid, or lined. Get 500 as low as 70 cents each. Choose from our standard cover stocks or be unique with craft, black, or pearlescent paper. Get started on your pocket notes today. What a great item to sell or to give away. And it's an item you'll actually be able to use for yourself. Visit jackprince.com/circle of trust to save even more.
You're listening to the AID Network.
Welcome back to another episode of Between Meals. I am your host, Beth Manos-Bricky from Tasty Yummies, and I am excited to not only have another episode to share with you all today, but to also announce that we are shifting to a weekly podcast format. Finally. It is something I've been considering for some time now, and we'll actually be talking about it a little bit more in depth next week, how I came to this realization, what all of this looks like, but mostly I want you all to know that I realized if this is something that I really want, then I need to just buck up, prioritize it, and make it happen. So here goes nothing. Before we get into today's episode, I want to check in with you all, and I want to know, things get missed. We're all so busy. Our feeds are just like completely out of order. Have you downloaded my new free Keep It Simple Keto ebook yet? This is your 7-day quick start guide to living a fabulous, fat-fueled life without all the BS. This is the approach that I take personally myself, and it has worked with so many of my own clients as well. In addition to a 1-minute quiz that will help you determine if keto and my approach to keto is right for you, you're also going to get a 7-day plan to make eating keto simple. No macro counting, no chasing blood ketones, and no stress. Plus, we talk all about how to eat your carbs. Yes, gasp, I know, but we do eat carbs. I share with you my formula for what to put on your keto plate so you're full, satisfied, and reaching your goals. There are daily checklists, journals for tracking, along with a series of emails to guide you in your journey, digging deeper into all of the details. To get your copy of my brand new free ebook, Keep It Simple Keto, your 7-day quick start guide to living a fabulous fat-fueled life, just go to tastyyummies.com/keto. All of that self-promotion makes a beautiful segue to today's episode of the podcast, where I'm joined by Leanne Vogel of Healthful Pursuit, and we are talking all about keto confusion, myths, and dropping the dogma. So for me, when it comes to keto, I hear the same questions time and time again from so many of you, from my clients and my family members, as well as I'm constantly observing just an abundance of misunderstanding and myths when it comes to keto. Y'all, the keto confusion is real. Keto is a wildly trendy approach right now, with good reason, but despite lots of misinformation and misconceptions, I truly believe the benefits and potential for so many can actually get lost in all the dogma, the rules, and the unimportant details, just straight up myths. So today we're just going to scratch the surface with Leanne Vogel, chatting all about this confusion and answering some of your questions. Leanne, or the Queen of Keto as I like to refer to her, is super well accomplished and well versed in the keto sphere, but especially from the perspective of and with special considerations for women, which in my opinion, not enough folks are giving special attention to. Leanne is an incredibly passionate and dedicated nutrition educator. She's host of the Keto Diet podcast, which is ranked number 3 in fitness and nutrition and number 10 in all health podcasts on iTunes in the US and Canada. She is a 4-time best-selling author, including national bestseller and international bestseller of the Keto Diet, which provides daily motivation tips, recipes, advice for getting started with keto, maintenance plans, and help to overcome the hurdles. Leanne also has one of the largest keto resources on YouTube, which she started back in 2015 with her paleo approach to keto. Now, Healthful Pursuit is a go-to resource for those looking to achieve health, happiness, and body confidence through a high-fat, low-carb diet. Leanne and I actually met virtually many years ago, both as food blogging yogis, eating pretty plant-focused diets. She was actually vegan for quite some time. And we were both struggling with our own various health issues and navigating self-discovery, self-healing, and just being wildly open in our personal journeys throughout it. I've always highly admired Leanne's willingness to share and her openness to admitting when it's time to change, when maybe she needs to check herself or take a new approach. Leanne, in addition to all of the amazing accomplishments I've told you about, she also has a free keto starter guide on her website. She has her amazing 12-week online keto program for women called Happy Keto Body. And in addition, she has a Keto Unlimited group through the Patreon community where she shares behind the scenes insight in her new paperback book that she's working on, keto inspiration, and tons of exclusive member benefits. As always, to grab the links for these incredible resources, plus all of the other things that we talk about in this episode upcoming, head over to the show notes, which you can find at tastyyummies.com/betweenmeals05. There's no spaces in there. You will find all of the links and anything else you need to know about today's episode. So now that we'll be moving into a weekly format for the podcast, you can bet we'll be digging deeper into keto-focused content in some coming episodes with more guests, more topics. And don't forget, if you want to learn more about keto, check out my brand new free ebook, Keep It Simple Keto, over at tastyyummies.com/keto. Be sure to stay tuned for next week's special Bites episode, where we're chatting all about small steps, motivations, and tools for prioritizing your goals. One quick note, I do want to mention that this episode with Leanne was recorded earlier this summer. I'd actually planned to release it in July, but as my own keto ebook, Keep It Simple Keto, got closer to launch, I decided to be strategic and hold off a little to put my focus on getting that done, but also so I could be smart and do some cross promotion, both in this episode, in my ebook, and just giving you guys everything at once. That said, everything in the episode remains the same, except our wild nomadic friend Leanne has actually sold her RV that she's living in, which we talk about in this episode. And she and her hubby are now living full-time on a sailboat. They sold the RV, they are hitting the seas, and they are setting off on their sailing adventures. If you want to follow along with all of Leanne's amazing adventures on the seas, sailing, or whatever she gets into next, make sure you use the links in the show notes that are provided so you can stay up to date with Leanne. All right, let's go ahead and get started with this episode of Between Meals. Leanne, thank you so much for being my guest here with us today. It is such an honor after all of our online connections and being on your podcast and being a part of your Happy Keto Body program to finally have the space to be able to bring you into my world and bring you to my audience. So I appreciate you being here so much. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great. I always enjoy chatting with you.
Same. And Mark, thank you as always for being here to kind of make sure things are flowing, all the technical bugs are worked out. And of course, for always making sure that we don't get too geeky so the people that aren't at that level can kind of follow along. So thank you.
Oh, I'm out of my element this time. It's just girl power everywhere I look. It's food power, keto power. Like if I'm the person that's going to make it easy for the common man to understand, I'm out of my element today. So I'll do the best that I can, but I promise nothing to no one.
Well, you hear it all in the day in, day out. So I feel like you can hang for sure. And I'm sure Leanne has a similar experience with her own husband.
Yes. In fact, he will be like, no, Leanne, I got this. And he'll answer the questions. So it's like, cool. I don't need to do anything anymore.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so awesome. So today we're going to be talking specifically about keto. And since you're the queen of keto, who better to kind of come in and hopefully clear up some keto confusion, misconceptions, maybe rumors or things that people know to or think to be true. I want to kind of get into the nitty gritty. And I got a lot of really great questions from my readers. And there's some topics that I hear often, even with my nutrition clients. But before we get into this whole keto confusion, I want to talk briefly about this amazing Instagram post that you put up. I think it was 2 days ago. That got a huge response that I somehow missed. And thank God you posted about it in your stories because wow. So I don't even want, please explain so that everybody can follow along.
So I had an eating disorder many, many years ago. And when I found keto, I was kind of in this place of still dealing with bulimia and trying to find my place as a health coach. Like, how can you coach people when you have an eating disorder? It was so challenging. And I worked with a body image coach for years, trying to figure out how I could see myself as more of a body, more than a body rather. And when my husband and I, we released Happy Keto Body back in April, and I was exhausted and I just needed a vacation. And so we went to Mexico. I was in my bathing suit and I'm like, Kevin, grab your camera. We're going to take pictures of me in a bathing suit. I'm sick and tired of this keto space, especially lately, because I think, it's been on Dr. Oz and it's like gaining traction. And there's lots of things that people are saying that are just not true or that I know are going to be harmful to people. And I just said, enough's enough. I got to talk about this, even though it's uncomfortable. And so I posted a picture of myself in a bathing suit with my cellulite and my lumpy bumps. And just like my body, and my body is a keto body. I've been eating keto for 4.5 years. I've overcome amenorrhea, ADD. My moods are better. I don't have anxiety anymore. I don't deal with depression, and it's changed my life. It's just my body is not a 6-pack body that we see. You think keto and you'll just keep losing fat until you become size 0. And so that's really where that post came from, of just saying are you with me? Are you ready to just see keto as being more than a weight loss diet is basically where it came from.
I think, it was so beautiful and so profound and so vulnerable. And I think so relatable for so many people. I mean, even if you're not in the health coaching or nutrition coaching space, I just think there's this immense amount of pressure, especially as women, for every choice we make for our health to be appearance driven. And so when someone knows, even for me, who I stepped into the keto space about 1.5 years ago, mostly from a therapeutic approach to try to mitigate some of my autoimmune conditions and deal with blood sugar dysregulation issues and a family history of diabetes and not wanting to be part of that. It's interesting how many people say to me when they find out this is the way that I approach my eating, well, you're fine. You're not overweight. It's like, but every choice about our health doesn't have to be appearance driven. And if it is, that's just great too. I think fat loss is a fine goal if that's on your radar, but I don't know. I just think it was such a beautifully said piece that hasn't really been touched on enough, especially with women. So
I think the difference for people like you is that you two are on a life mission. It's not about losing weight. It's not about perfection. It's about literally changing your life. And I've seen so many women before ask Beth, how did you lose the weight? How did you start to look like this? And when she starts explaining to them that it's not just a book and it's a lifestyle decision, I just see their face completely lose all interest. Like, oh, I didn't know this was going to be the rest of my life. I didn't know this was going to take effort. I thought you were going to tell me just eat carrots instead of a sandwich and you'll lose weight. Like, everybody's looking for a quick fix. You guys are on a complete lifestyle change-up, lifestyle mission.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that too, the deer in headlights look, but there's always that one person that just gets it.
Yep.
And that's really like why I do what I do, is because when I'm on book tour, there's always this one person, usually on the left-hand side, that like looks skeptical when they come in, and they're like, I don't really get this person. And at the end, they're the one that comes up to me, hugs me, and starts crying. And yes.
Yeah.
Like that is just, that's what we want. And I'm sure, Beth, you feel the same. And it's also like, health may not be, I mean, health is also a definition that's hard for some. I mean, there's some people, like my parents included, where health is not health. Like they just can't get to that place. And so it's a bigger conversation of like, how about we just try to feel good, whatever that space is for us and whatever our ability is able to get us there. And it may be different for all of us. And I think that that's okay.
Well, and I think that that's the tough thing doing the work that we do. And I come up against this all the time, because it'd be really great if I could come up with a formula for a macro calculator, and I just give everybody the same static answer of this is how you feel good. This is how you get to health. But the problem is this is why I don't even love the word healthy anymore in a lot of ways, because what is health? It's so bio-individualistic. Like for me, it's getting my autoimmune conditions in order. And I would be a liar if I said that at any point in my journey, that from an ego-driven space, wanting to change my body composition, it was 100% part of my goals at points. But there are people whose goals are to manage hormone imbalances, and weight loss isn't even on their radar, or people that are dealing with cognitive issues or stress management or blood sugar regulation. So it's like you can approach keto or whatever approach you take to your health with a different goal. And so the steps to get there are so wildly dependent on what your end goal is. And so that answer of it depends and what is health, as you're saying, is it's just so hard to define anymore. And I think it's beautiful that people are actually talking about this and not just trying to sell things like this is my formula to success for health.
Yeah. And if anyone says like they've figured it all out, run in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
It's not true.
Right. So to get into the actual topic of, the misconceptions and the myths surrounding keto, I have a long list of things here, and I'm sure as the conversation evolves, we'll kind of get into them. But, for you, what do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions and myths that you hear often as people approach you? And I know, having multiple programs and your wildly successful book, what are you hearing most from people?
You have to eat fat to burn fat. Protein kicks you out of ketosis. A calorie is a calorie, or like you need to burn more calories than you consume to lose weight. Your like specific macro percentages, like I've heard, you can only eat 20% protein. If you eat more than that, it's not good. And if you eat less than that, you're going to lose all your muscle. And same with fat. Like a ketogenic diet is 85% fat, period. Well, yeah, like a therapeutic one is.
Yeah. And if that works for you.
Yeah, completely. So,
but it might not for somebody else.
Exactly. Those are just some of the ones that come up quite often. Oh, another one is you can't work out on keto. It's a big one. Like you cannot be an athlete and eat keto.
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny because I kind of wanted you to sort of just drop some of those that you hear often just to see how they aligned with what was coming up in my sort of audience reaching out and what I hear often with my clients. One of the big ones that I hear, or it's not so much a myth or misconception, it's just a very big question mark. And so a lot of people ask, well, what if I can't do dairy? I don't do cheese, or I prefer not to eat a ton of meat. And so, we could talk to the point of making sure that you get enough protein, which I definitely want to make sure we touch on. But I think there's this misconception that to be keto, you have to just eat a steak at every meal. So I would love for you to kind of touch on I know that you're like me, you avoid dairy, you have a background as a plant-based eater. So I would love to hear your thoughts on approaching keto from those directions.
Yeah, it's so interesting. If you would ask me this question like a year ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, plants are so important to your overall keto approach. And I definitely know that they are, but I'm starting to meet a lot of people that thrive more on less plants. And especially lately, I found that my body has just been naturally drawn to eating more animal protein, which blows my mind. And this goes back to the like conversation about your body is always changing, and you always have to go back to the drawing board and think, okay, well, I'm being drawn to do this, and what does that mean, and how is that going to impact me? And so I think with the dairy, there is a misconception that you need to eat dairy in order to be successful in keto or hit your fat amount. And that's not true. I've never done dairy and keto ever. And I've been ketogenic for 4.5 years, and it's fine. And then with meat, I think the problem that I see in the ketogenic space, and it was a problem when I first joined and continues to be as people are finding it and maybe don't have the means or the resources to know the difference, but where people are choosing just like any sort of food as long as it fits their macros. And that to me is really dangerous. Not necessarily like meat versus no meat, but just like the quality of the food that we're eating, like grain-fed meat. I mean, if that's all you can afford, I still feel like it's better to eat that than going to McDonald's every day and having French fries.
Right.
But you
or loading up your body with tofu.
Yeah, exactly. So kind of like gauging what you're able to afford. But food quality is something that's super important. But also, you know, I was having this conversation the other day with my husband. It's like, we've been on this journey. Like I've been on the healthy journey for 11 years. So I'm just starting to care about my food quality, like really care. Like, how am I washing my produce, and where is this produce coming from? And, you know, what farm did this meat come from, and how were they raised? And that's become really important. But I think we can get so tied up in like all of the rules and all the things we have to do. It's like, oh my gosh, it's terrifying. But I think when you start a ketogenic diet, you know, looking at it as a question I ask myself often is like, how many nutrients can I pack into this meal?
Yeah.
And that's it.
I agree. I feel like that's often missed, especially with, you know, you touched on how trending keto is, and you see it everywhere now, every news station and every talk show. But I think a lot of what's being touted in terms of, like you said, the misconception of just continue to eat fat to burn more fat, but also the quality. You know, we've all seen the Instagram accounts that are 7 cups of mozzarella cheese makes this cinnamon roll that's loaded with some sort of alternative sweetener, and I'm going to drink it down with a Diet Coke. And it's like, sure, 100% if this person started at a place of 350 pounds and they went from a standard American diet that was loaded with processed carbohydrates and refined grains, yes, they're going to see a weight loss. But let's talk about the long-term effects of that, but also let's talk about what their lab work looks like after 6 months, a year. What are those important biomarkers saying to us about what they're doing to their body? So I think that's such an important thing to note. It's interesting because my health journey started opposite, in the sense of I became so obsessed and ingrained and scared by food quality. I think it was Food Inc. and the Michael Pollan books and all of that 13 years ago, or 8 to 9 years ago, is what got me on the road of really caring about my food. And so that's how I started. And then it's been an evolution of dialing in like what specifically works for me. But it's such an important topic for sure.
It is.
Yeah. And then I think something else that often comes up, especially, you know, not just the, can I do keto while being dairy free? I think a lot of questions that came up for people writing me were surrounding chasing the numbers in terms of, am I hitting my ketones? Why is it that I'm doing this, and this correct? I'm doing everything the way I'm supposed to by the rules, but I'm not hitting this arbitrary number that someone deemed as the way to say that you're keto officially. So I feel like we could have an entire episode just about this, because I have a lot of personal opinions, but I would love to hear your thoughts on that topic and how you personally approach it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, there's so many things I need to say. So keto is one of the only diets where you can have a little machine in your house that's pretty affordable, where you can test whether or not you're a winner, quote unquote, or a loser, quote unquote. And you want to be a winner. And so I know when I first started the ketogenic diet, I had my little glucometer and my little ketone monitor, and I would go up to it like multiple times a day, knowing that those little Lancets were like $5 in Canada, knowing I was spending $10 every time I did that test. And I didn't care, because I just wanted to see what was happening and if I was winning or losing. And so it puts us in a kind of an awkward position because it's one of the only diets where you can say like, for sure, I'm doing awesome. And no, I'm not. With everything else, it's kind of like there's this gray area. And I think the testing has a great role, especially when you're first getting started, like after about 3 to 4 weeks, if you're like, where am I at? How am I reacting to certain foods? Like if you test your blood sugar after a meal and it spikes up, chances are, if it was a keto meal, that you're sensitive to one of the foods you just ate. So if your blood sugar is always going up after you eat coconut, perhaps you should try to take out coconut, see how that, fixes things. And if it makes you feel better, that's great. So there's a time and a place for it. But I really got into this really nasty experience after 6 months of eating keto, testing, tracking, like weighing out my broccoli on a food scale. I was just like, is this seriously my life right now? Like I am spending hours a day on MyFitnessPal, tracking everything, testing my ketones, putting it into this Google chart that had all of my numbers and what I was eating and what it was affecting. And as an educator, that was really helpful because I learned a lot about my body and how I rested. Yeah. But like is Leanne mentally stable thing? I was not mentally stable. Like I was kind of a hot wreck. And so I think with anything, there is a standard ketogenic protocol that we can follow. And like, if we've just been diagnosed with a serious illness and we need to be on a strict keto protocol in order to feel better, or, if you get diagnosed with cancer and you decide I'm going to do this keto thing, totally different ball game.
Right.
If you're the person who wants to feel good and maybe you have a history of ADD or you have an autoimmune issue and you want to use it therapeutically, we have a lot more leeway to just have fun with it and not get stuck on the rules, because when we have that dogmatic approach, it gets us very stuck and we can't move forward.
And I'm sure for you, having a different past with disordered eating, but still a past with disordered eating, there's a gray area of when that level of checking and following and hitting numbers probably could turn a very unsafe and unhealthy corner.
Oh yeah, it went all the way down the block, around the corner, upside down and backwards. And I think that's like for anyone. It doesn't even have to mean that you were diagnosed with an eating disorder to be weary of the relationship with food. I mean, I see it all the time. I mean, almost everyone I talk to has a weird relationship with food.
Yeah. What was the turning point for you in terms of like doing that for long enough and really garnering important information for the work that you do, but also realizing that you had turned that corner and run down the block and gotten really deeply into it?
My husband, Kevin, was eating an Oreo cookie and I was watching him so intently. I felt like I was like a lioness in the jungle about to like tackle. I was just like, and then I realized in that moment, like I was licking my lips and I was watching and I was hearing and I was like, this is not right. I should not be having this reaction to watching my husband eat a cookie. Like there's something not right here. And that was kind of like, okay, this is a problem. But then you get caught up in the place I was at is like, okay, well, this keto thing makes me feel really good. I've lost all this weight, but I'm totally obsessive. I'm getting pins and needles. I can't sleep. How do I make this better? Because it's, in some ways, it's really good. And that's kind of over months of research and trying to pull myself out of that hole. I developed the Fat Fueled protocol, which is what I follow now and what's in my Fat Fueled program, Happy Keto Body, the keto diet, of just approaching it a little bit differently and not being so crazy about all the rules.
Well, I think that there's something important to note about, one, there's that initial conversation we had about what's your definition of health, like what's your ultimate goal. And so there's a lot that can change how you approach it because of that. But I also think it's important to note that it works, right? I mean, we know from a scientific level that if we are aggressively filling our body with glucose and our body's chronically having to output insulin, no matter what your blood ketones say, if we're doing that day in and day out, we're going to have an issue. And so I think, for me, a big check was that my father was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And he kind of came to me and was like, I'm ready to listen to you. And I knew if I said, okay, here, Dad, we're going to go on the quote keto diet and you're going to track your macros and you're going to prick your finger and check your blood to see what your blood ketones are at, he'd be like, you're insane. But what I did do was just kind of give him the foundation of what keto is built on and teach him what sort of carbohydrates were to be limited and which could be maybe included based on his activity level, based on coming from vegetables, whatever the case may be, but also knowing that for him, it was therapeutic in that we were watching his blood glucose. And so he did continue to track that, obviously, so that we could get him off the metformin. But he essentially followed a keto diet by virtue of reducing his refined carbohydrates. And in a matter of, I think, 3 months, we completely reversed his type 2 diabetes, like completely gone, no medication. And the man never, I don't even know if I explained to him what a ketone was, if he would understand it. And so was he in quote ketosis? Was he quote, labeled as keto? I don't know, but I can tell you for certain his body switched over to being fat fueled and running on fat versus glucose. And so right there, it's success without any measure in terms of, what some people would deem to be a success. So, I think it's really important for people to hear that it still works without sort of that dogmatic approach.
Yes, completely. And I mean, that's really the end goal. Like, who cares, right?
Yep.
Like he got what he wanted, and who cares what he was? I mean, keto is just a word, just like vegan is just a word. Like when I was vegan, I used gelatin. So what? Because I knew it was good for my gut, and I still associated myself with being vegan. So I think we just get so caught up in it, and the only person you're hurting is yourself. Like there are no keto police, there are no paleo police. It's just you. Like just live your truth, do what you need.
I loved your analogy of it being a metric or a measure for, you're either winning or you're losing. And I think, like you said, there are definitely benefits to being able to have that information at our fingertips, but it does get to a place where, if people have listened to this podcast for a while now, I've used this analogy just in terms of approaching your business and a presence on social media and having a presence online in any capacity. But I think it applies here as well as this idea of mission over metrics. Like, what is your ultimate mission? We can't be measuring metrics and hoping to get to whatever our goal is and not be ever looking at what sort of changes that we can make that will get us there. So I think when you're prioritizing the wrong thing, it's not always the best approach. So
you just blew my mind right there. I just had this huge epiphany. I approach my business the same way as my diet.
Yeah.
100%. When people are like, we dropped ads on the podcast recently, like all sponsors, all ads, we're no longer working with brands. And when I went to the team with this, they're like, huh? And I'm like, I don't know. I just feel it in my gut. We just got to do it. Like, we just got to do it. And so I do the same thing with my diet. It's like, yeah, I'm going to just try this. I don't know what's going to happen. We're just going to do it. I feel good about it. And it's so true. You just got to go with the flow, and you can't, a number won't tell you what to do.
Well, and I think especially, and I think this would be true for approaching your health, but I think, speaking specifically about business and social media, if every choice I made was to chase some number on Instagram, for example, if I just was like, I'm going to do this because every time, but if in my heart, it wasn't what brought me joy, if in my heart, it wasn't what I was passionate about, if it wasn't, I could easily find myself down a rabbit hole of becoming a plant-based yoga instructor on Instagram because that's what people are responding to. But if it doesn't bring me joy, I'm not going to be able to sustain that. And I feel the exact same way with my diet. It's like sort of to your point of knowing when it's time to dial back, say plant-based foods or not. Like I'm huge on my big salads every day and tons of fibery vegetables because I know it's important. We went to Mexico a few weeks ago. I got food poisoning and I was super sick for like 24 hours, bounced back really quickly. But I've noticed since I've returned home, obviously my gut microbiota is off because every time I load up on certain types of fibrous vegetables, like poor Mark, he can attest to this, the level of bloating and gas is out of control. And so it's, even though I know it's important for me to get those foods in my diet, I've had to change it and dial it back a little in this moment for right now to get the results I'm looking for. And I know that that's going to shift. So I think it's important to be fluid with everything for sure.
Totally.
Something that this came up a lot. And I know that you've touched on it in a lot of your programs and in your books as well. And I'm sure on your podcast, but I still think that there's a lot of confusion surrounding the idea of carb-ups. And I think it's especially confusing for women. I've seen it with clients where they've become so obsessed with limiting their carbs that they're not eating any vegetables at all. And then they're experiencing sort of the alternative, which is to sort of crash in different ways from not getting enough carbohydrates. So I would love for you to sort of talk about the confusion or the myths surrounding carb-ups and maybe sort of give a little insight on how people can know when it's time to include more carbohydrates in their keto diet.
Yeah. So during those 6 months where I was like hardcore keto and like wouldn't have a carb if my life depended on it, I lost a bunch of weight, but I also did a lot of damage that took me a couple of years to like fix. And some people, like I've met some women that have been keto for like 15 years, eating 20 grams of carbs every day, and they are thriving. And then I've met other women that do it for like 2 weeks and like, not for me. I just needed more vegetables. And it's unfortunate because there's so much power in this ketogenic diet, or just even to eat more fat, and people don't give it a chance because of the rules that we were talking about and because they don't adjust things. And for me, it was those carbs, and I knew that I had a problem with carbs, and not in the way that most people think. Like, I do enjoy carbs. They don't make me feel great, but when you time them correctly and you don't fear them, they can actually work in your benefit on a ketogenic diet. So after those 6 months, I was like, okay, why am I so terrified of carbs? What did they do to me? Like, why am I so scared? And when I started to look at the research, if you eat carbs at night, so if you eat a ketogenic diet all day, especially as a woman, and you're just eating keto all day, and then in the evening you have like an apple on your salad or half a sweet potato with some chicken, what you're doing there is you are avoiding the brain fog and the sugar crash of when you would have carbs in the morning, because you're sleeping through that. So by the time you're crashing, and it's not really a crash if you're having those sorts of foods, but before you feel that little dip and you want more carbs, you're sleeping. Your body actually burns more carbohydrates when it sleeps than during the day. When you get into your REM cycle, it actually doubles up. So I thought that was pretty interesting, because a lot of people, do you remember when Oprah was like, don't eat past 6 o'clock and make sure there aren't a lot of carbs in your last meal because it'll make you get fat. That's not true.
Right.
So it was fun to kind of bust through that. And by having carbs in the evening, you actually reset your leptin sensitivity. So you're asking, like, what's the sign to know if you're ready for carb-ups on a ketogenic diet? A lot of signs. I notice it in my husband, in my sister, myself, in the clients that I work with. When you wake up in the morning and you're hungry on your ketogenic diet, and you're like, what is happening? Like, and you're eating fatty coffees and it's not doing it, and you're switching around your macros and you're like, what is this? It's your leptin. And the best way to reset your leptin on a ketogenic diet is to have carbs at night. And so you have a touch of carbs. The next morning you wake up, you're not hungry, and then you can go longer periods of time fasting. It will also boost your serotonin, which makes you feel better, helps with tryptophan, makes you happier, so you're not overeating. So there's a bunch of reasons why having carbs in the evening is like really not a big deal and can actually be helpful.
That's why I started having donuts at night, because then I don't need them in the morning, and it works in my favor. Quick question for you. By the way, your husband is a hero for having that Oreo. What do you think when people are looking at this or listening to two pros that have gone through this and made this lifestyle change? Who do you think that this is right for? And what do you think your mindset needs to be for this to work? Like, if you're looking for a quick fix, it's probably not for you. But when you go out and you speak to 500 people and you find that one person that hears the message, what do you normally see in that person that takes to make something like this work?
Do you mean by this like keto, or just like carb-ups and figuring out?
No, going all the way back to keto, because you guys have talked about all of the benefits and everything, but there's not everybody who's listening is going through this or experiencing this. So I wanted to just take it back a little bit to, like, this sounds great, but where do you need to be at mentally to make keto work for you?
Frustrated. When I was there, it was like, I will do anything. I just don't feel great. And I'm just so sick of not feeling good, but still trying, but just not making it. And I don't know about you, Beth, but it was like, I just got to try something else.
Yeah. I mean, when you've tried it all, I think that there's always that idea of, is this the thing that's right for me? I think too, Mark, to sort of jump in, I think, it kind of goes back to this idea, and we've talked about it in previous podcasts, but it's like, what are your goals, right? So like, what, if you're just like, I want to lose weight, is this right for me? Probably, yeah, it can work great for fat loss. I'm dealing with blood sugar regulation issues. Could this work for me? Yeah. So I think to Leanne's point, if you've sort of tried lots of things, if you've tried quote moderation, if you've tried to eat less and move more, or sort of the standard American approaches to being healthy and cheat days on the weekends and do whatever you want during the week, if you've done all of those things and whatever your health goal is, which is dependent on the person, if you haven't hit it yet, I say, why not try it? Even if you give it 30 days, 28 days, and you say, you know what, I don't feel better, or it's just not working for me and my personal makeup, that's great. But the best thing is that you try something new and you get those results that you've never been able to find before.
So since we have the queen of keto in front of us, and it's always nice to be around royalty, Leanne, where do you suggest someone starts? Because anything like this can feel overwhelming. And like you said, you also don't want to focus on, am I losing or winning? Like, where's a healthy place to start on all of this to where you'll have a longer run of success?
So go to Amazon.com, type in keto, look for a big orange book. It's got my face on it. Get that book. No, I'm just kidding.
She shouldn't be kidding, because her book is like by far and away the best in the space. And it's so approachable and balanced. And I know that she's going to talk about it, but her approach to keto is so much more comprehensive than anyone I've ever come across ever.
Oh, thanks, Beth. Yeah, I think if you're the type of person, and there are these types of people out there that you just need to be told what to eat, and you'll eat those things, and you just don't care about anything else, then it becomes very, 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 very easy for you. Like, go to the store, walk around, read some labels on the backs of your favorite products, get a feel for what has carbs, what doesn't. If that's just like beyond your brain capacity, like you're like, what is even a carb? Like, I don't even understand. Like, just read the backs of labels, get comfortable, go to the produce section and look at different vegetables you've never seen before. Have you tried broccoli or daikon? Daikon is delicious, and you can slice it up like noodles. It's great. And just start playing around that way of like, what's a carb? What's a fat? How do I incorporate this? And if you are more the person that's been dieting for a very long time, and when you try a diet, you go all in and you want to know all the things, any eating style can be super dangerous, because you're not going to listen to your body. When generally I find people that are hardcore dieters are usually the most intuitive people with their bodies. They've just told themselves like, my body doesn't know, I can't trust my body. And so those people would benefit from some of the stuff that I put out there, where it's just like, let's not create rules. Like, let's just put like a little roadmap together of like, set the intention to eat low carb, high fat, see where you are in 3 weeks. If you're feeling better, great. I think the issue that people come across time and time again on the ketogenic diet is that we're comparing ourselves to everyone else on social media with the before and after pictures and all the meals they put together, and start comparing yourself to yourself, because that is the best measurement that you can possibly do. So if you take a snapshot.
That's so brilliant. Sorry to interrupt, but that is like one of the most brilliant things I've ever heard, because it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. And even thinking of yourself as not a before or after picture. So like, stop thinking of yourself as like this physical being, and write a little letter to yourself on day one. Here's how I'm feeling. This is what I did today. Here are the emotions that I'm feeling. My husband really made me angry because he did this one thing. And, my boss pissed me off today. And you'll notice like a lot of emotion in that. And then 3 weeks from now, write a little letter about how your day went. And I can almost guarantee if you're eating more fat and less carbs, you're going to be like a happier human, and just see like, wow, I'm like dealing with emotion better. And that is a huge thing. But when we take that before and after picture and we're like, oh my gosh, 3 weeks, and like, I look exactly the same. So I think even getting out of that mentality of, if I haven't lost 20 pounds, I'm a failure. But those are some steps to like get started in the process, and just don't get overwhelmed with all of the tracking and things that we can often, like, if you just set the intention, of like, eat less carbs, eat more fat, almost like you did for your dad, what you're saying. Same thing.
And I think the idea of experimenting, because while there are rules and people have guides in place, everybody is so unique, and how your body responds. Like to get to the point of the carb-ups and working out while being keto, I go to the gym 5-6 days a week. And most of those days are high intensity, heavy weightlifting, like a lot of energy output. And kind of like you, when I first got into keto, I was like, okay, I'm doing this and I'm very all or nothing. And I love to be compliant. It's just who I am. And I would go so low carb that there was a fear around carbohydrates. And I know we spoke on your podcast, Leanne, where I talked about being on that hike in Yosemite and having such a crash that it was a wake up moment for me of, okay, they're not the scary monster. There's a way to do this that is appropriate and healthful. And so I've been experimenting. I know to be true, and I tell my clients to be true about the carbing up at night because of the blood sugar roller coaster. But I've noticed that I'm doing better right now with my carb ups closer to my workouts. And because I think I've been at, a year and a half, I've built in the ability for my body to get into fat burning mode in a much quicker way than maybe in the beginning. But also I think the benefit of eating this way is that metabolic flexibility that you sort of earn over time. I have found that these carb ups that happen generally right after a very intense workout, I don't have that crash. I'm not eating a donut or a bagel. I'm having, half a white sweet potato or some rice. I'm noticing that I'm getting far better benefits from that versus the carb ups at night that I was trying. And so I think there's also something to be said for experiment. Like worst thing that happens is you have a couple of days where you have a little brain fog or your energy's off and you're like, okay, that time of carbing up isn't working for me. So I love the idea of, like you said, compare it to yourself and have a way of measuring your success that isn't necessarily macros and ketones, but more like a food journal of your emotions surrounding the food or the sort of digestive issues surrounding the food. So I think that's such a brilliant approach. I feel like we could talk for like hours just about just one of these topics. I kind of the last thing I want to talk about, because it really kind of struck me, and I think a lot of people have this topic on their mind. And I know I sent you the link to that video that Rob Wolf put out and all of the research that he sort of referenced in this video. And I'll include it in the show notes for the podcast for anybody that hasn't seen it. But Rob Wolf basically spent 30 minutes on a video that he posted to his Facebook and his blog, talking about these misconceptions that we're talking about how you don't necessarily have to continuously increase your fat to go deeper into fat burning. But the big thing that was kind of mind-blowing for me was he really debunked the myth that too much protein will cause gluconeogenesis, that will raise your blood glucose. And I'm seeing it time and time again with my clients. They come in, we look over their food journal, and I see that they're eating such a low amount of protein that it's alarming to me in the sense of like muscle loss and what's going to happen over the long term. And it's coming from this fear of protein causing a rise in your blood glucose. So I would love for you to sort of spend a little bit of time sharing your thoughts and opinions on that if you can.
Yeah. So when I read my first book on keto, I read that gluconeogenesis was a scary boogeyman. And I'm like, no, man, in school we learned that this is a demand-driven supply. Like, so it's not supply-driven, it's demand-driven, which means if you eat a bunch of protein and your body doesn't need the glucose, it's not all of a sudden going to like pump out all this glucose because of gluconeogenesis. It's like, do we need glucose right now?
Right.
No? Okay, cool. And so when I read that, I'm like, well, that's not true. And I didn't really think much of it. And over time, I've been saying, like, in all of my books and everything I've done, I'm like, no, man, like, that's not a thing. But it was so great. I watched his video and I was like, yes, preach 100%. I agree with you. So it is definitely true. And it is a demand-driven state. And I agree with you. I've seen far too many people feel like protein is not good on a ketogenic diet. And yeah, we say moderate protein because fat is the star of the show. But I think people hear moderate protein and they're like, okay, so
no protein.
Yeah, exactly. Like if if moderate protein gets me there fast, no protein will get me there quicker, you know? And I mean, we see this with everything. It's not just protein, it's everything. And in the keto diet, I put together this whole, like, most of it got cut because when I gave in the manuscript, it was like double as big as it is now. And there was this whole thing about like protein and how great it is and the signs you need more of it. But I think we lost sight somewhere of how important protein is. And it's not just restricted to the ketogenic diet, but everything. Like, chances are, if you're a vegan, you need more protein. If you're over 50, you need more protein. And if you train really hard, protein. If your sleep sucks, protein. So there are so many things that help by having protein.
I have a quick question for you. You know how when somebody has an addictive personality, at one point in their life, they might be addicted to like drugs or alcohol. And then when they get off of that, maybe they get high on Christ or like working out. You know how they just take that part of their personality and they displace it elsewhere. Do you think it's possible, if you're prone to a negative eating habit like bulimia, you know, a food eating disorder, is it possible do you think it's possible to reverse engineer your brain and take those same personality traits, but to use it in a positive manner? Like, if you've gone down a bad road, can you take that same part of your personality and program you to go down a good road?
I love this question because I was a drug addict. I got kicked out of school. I got kicked out of my house. I had a really rough teenage time into my 20s. And then, you know, I got addicted to work and I got addicted to eating and addicted to following things. And something that's really helped me in kind of shifting my view is when I read Danielle Laporte's Desire Map, and I went through it. I don't know if you're familiar with it. Basically, the premise is figure out what feeling you want to feel every day. And, you know, when I was doing ecstasy at a rave, like, what feeling did I really, what was I going for? It was freedom. Like, I felt so free. And, you know, when I got in a fast car with people that shouldn't have been driving and we had that, like, you're not the boss of me feeling, like I just like on the road, and go for what you've figure out what feelings you want to feel, and then you can turn that into positive things. So last year when I wrote the book and there was lots of things going on, I felt very confined. I wasn't feeling free. That's like my number one word that I always have to feel. For me, it was like, okay, husband, what do you think about moving into an RV full time and just like traveling around and being free? And so I've worked very hard at trying to figure out the feelings that I want to feel in those negative states and turning them into what can I do on a daily basis to feel that way in a positive reframe. And it does take work, but once you start feeling that more and feeling that more, now I'm just addicted to like driving across the country in an RV to feel that feeling of freedom. And I think that that's a lot more healthier than the other things that you could do.
Right. Do you think that, I mean, nobody can predict the future, but we all like to try. Do you feel like the way you're living your life right now and the way that you're eating right now, is this till death do us part? Like, do you feel like you're on this path and for the foreseeable future?
Oh, I don't think anyone can answer that question. I mean, if they do, like, good on them. It's hard because, like, when I started keto, it was very different from what I'm eating now. And I eat a lot more animal protein now than I did even 6 months ago. And I don't know where that's taking me. I don't know what that looks like. I find, you know, I really, really love coconut oil right now. But a year ago, it was like, just the smell of coconut, I can't even handle it. So the way I'm living life, I know almost for certain it would be very hard for me to live in a house again. And actually something that you said, Mark, stuck with me many years ago. You posted a picture of you guys in like December walking through a sunny neighborhood. And I was like, oh, must be nice in December to have sun. And you're like, don't shame me. You have a choice. Like, that really stuck with me. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was like, oh my gosh, I do have a choice. I hate snow. Why the heck am I living in snow? Like, I have a choice. And so I think we all have choices, but I don't think you ever know where it's going to go. I know that keto has served me so, so well. And I think it's such a powerful diet that can completely change not only your life, but the way you see your body and the way you interact with people and your moods. I don't think I know that I'll never go back to a place of like not caring about that.
Yeah.
But you just never know where your body will take you.
I love that. And I love that Mark said that too, because we came from Buffalo. So we know, and we hit that point too, where one day we were like, wait, we don't have to live here. Like, we don't have to do this. Like, I know my family's here and I love my family, but like, we don't have to be here. And we just left. Like, so I love that. And I love your analogy of the chasing that feeling of freedom. I think that's so profound and beautiful.
And I'd like to point out, I won't tolerate people sunshine shaming me. Okay. It's just not going to happen. You won't shame me for having sunshine in my life. I worked hard to get it. I pay a lot for it. And in fact, when we have a shitty day, I kind of feel like being like, our rent should be off today. Like, I don't feel like I should be paying the whole 100 for the day. Like, it didn't come out. It rained. Like, this isn't what I signed up for California. I need to go talk to Bob and work out a deal for today.
I think that that's totally fair. You know, there's a bunch of BLM land really close to your house. You could just live on that land for free.
What's BLM?
You wouldn't have to pay. It's a Bureau of Land Management. California is like amazing with just free land that you can park your RV on and stay for up to 7 days. And then you don't have to pay at all for the sunshine.
That's why we see, like, I mean, we kind of knew there was some sort of deal like that, because anywhere you drive around here, there's just RVs parked everywhere. And sometimes it's like the most amazing place. And sometimes you're like, oh, people are just parking here because they need a place to sleep before they carry on to the next place. So it's amazing.
We've lived in Los Angeles for 5 years. There are, in fact, 2 or 3 RVs in the city that have been in the same spot for 5 years. I am certain that they've been in those same spots. And I'm like, wow, they've got such a great deal. They live on the edge of Culver City and they pay $0 in rent every month. At this point, they've probably saved themselves easily $250,000, $400,000.
There you go. See, another life hack.
I love it. I love it.
And well, I feel like on keto.
This conversation about the RV is going to lead into some of my follow-up final questions. The way that we finish every episode of Between Meals is with a little question game I like to play with my guests or Mark. It's called Would You Rather. I feel like everybody's played the Would You Rather game. And I'm going to give you 2 options with each of the questions. Try to just answer as quick as you can. They're all really fun. We're going to start off really weird because I just like to have fun with these questions. So first question, Leanne, would you rather have feet for hands or hands for feet?
Hands for feet.
Got it. I love that. She was fast with that one.
Fast. Hands for feet is what she's going with.
Hands for feet. That's because you could probably do more, right?
Do everything.
Yeah. Twice as fast.
I could be like talking on the phone and also typing with like 2 hands. It'd be great.
It'd be amazing. Second question. Would you rather have to park your RV in one spot and stay put forever, or would you rather never have internet access again?
Oh, come on.
Those are hard. So never be able to move your RV.
Never have internet access again.
Wow. I love that.
Impossible. Don't even say it.
You could do it. I mean, I've done it for a couple months. I could do it. It'd be hard. I mean, I could do it.
You've really unplugged for a couple of months in this modern age.
Yes.
Wow. I think you might be my hero. Yeah?
Yeah, it was amazing. I highly recommend everyone do it for like 30 days in the forest
30 days
or desert.
Is amazing. When's the last time you did that?
November. Yeah, right before Christmas.
What did you do? You didn't watch TV? You didn't listen to music? You didn't listen to podcasts? Like, what did you do off the grid? What's life like out there?
We were in Baker, California. It's like a couple hours outside of Vegas. And we were on a dried up lake bed. And we just stayed there. I sat outside and did yoga every morning. I figured out the dried up lake beds, you know how they get all cracked up?
Yeah.
You can like lift out those pieces and they're like 3 feet down.
Whoa.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I did. I just like looked at rocks and played with sand. And yeah, it was cool.
That's
did you
amazing.
Read books?
No, I didn't read any books.
That's the most heroic part of all of it.
That's amazing. Did you get bored? Like, I feel like we don't get bored enough anymore as a culture.
No, I didn't really get bored. There was one day that was really exciting because it was this RV parked way off in the distance, and he had gone on this like road trip with his bike and he hadn't come back in days, and we were worried. So we called the California Highway Patrol and they sent helicopters.
Whoa.
And there were guys in like vehicles with sirens. It was the coolest thing. We got it all on video, like with our camera. It was like the highlight.
Did he come
Wow.
back?
No, even when we left, we didn't see him, and they left a note on his RV. We were really worried.
Oh God, that's scary.
What time did you go to bed?
Oh, when the sun went down, just like when the sun went down, if we didn't have campfires, we would just go to bed
Wow.
or play a game. We would like Carcassonne. It's a really good game.
That's insane.
Isn't it really fun when you're camping and don't have internet to like actually go to sleep when your body should physically go to sleep? Like the sunset, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. I don't care if it's 7:00. Like I'm
And
tired.
how much energy you have at the full moon.
Oh yes, you're so tapped into all
man.
that.
Oh, it's the coolest. You just want to like dance around the fire. It's crazy. Like, I don't know. There's something magical about the moon.
Yeah,
When you can
I feel like
actually see it.
So
and
when you went back online, what was the first website you went to?
Probably my own.
Is it
make
still
sure
there?
it's still working. Well, you have a team too, so taking time away like that, you kind of know some stuff is still kind of rolling in the background, correct?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. We've made our team a lot like very small recently. So there's just 3 of us now. But yeah, it motors along, and I really
awesome.
needed that break. The book was really hard, and I just needed time and space.
That's awesome. All right, next question. Would you rather speak every single language in the world, or would you rather be able to speak to all animals?
Talk to animals.
I knew that was going to be your answer, especially with your RV, with your adorable crew.
Oh, I would love to know what our dog Coconut thinks.
But what if your dog Coconut is a total dickhead and you're just like, this is the worst person I've ever met in my life.
Oh my
he has all the
gosh.
worst ideas. He's a racist. Like, what if you just learned that animals are the worst people?
That would be horrible.
Careful what you wish for.
But you know what? I feel like even that, they'd still be better than like most people.
100%. 100%.
Like,
Yeah, I can see where Mark, you have to see their crew. They have the cutest crew of dogs. They're so adorable. Such a team.
If I could talk to animals, I would go to the closest horse and just be like, level with me. Does it suck standing all the time? Like, do you just want a chair? Like, because I think horses just look miserable because when you have 2 sets of legs, you stand twice as much as everybody else and they just stand there all day. Like, I just think horses look miserable just standing around all the time.
and do they actually like being ridden? Like, does it hurt their back? I wonder that too. Like, do you mind this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or is this like your job in life? And so you just sort of, like they always say working dogs are happy because they have a task at hand and that's what they were bred to do. But you do wonder, like, wouldn't you rather just kind of hang out?
Yeah. I would really like to talk to animals. I'd have a lot of great questions.
But think about this. Think about all this shit that you would love to say to your parents. Like, you would just love to open up your heart and be like, when you did this and made me feel this way? If Sari set me down and said, I just want to level with you right now, that when I don't want to walk around the block and you make me, it really makes, I would just bawl. I'd be like, I'm so sorry. I've been so mean to you.
Yeah. But they would be like, I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you.
Yeah, true.
That's all they would
It's what we
say.
hope.
Yeah.
I got to call my
Remember
dad
that time you
today.
gave me a whole egg? That was awesome. Let's do that again. I have a whole egg. All right. Would you rather never be able to have bacon again or never be able to have one of your rocket fuel lattes again?
Never be able to have bacon again. No.
Do you do your rocket fuel latte? I know. This is why I
Got her.
asked these.
You got her.
There's always one question.
Bacon, because like rocket fuel lattes are so convenient when I'm traveling. I think it'd be really hard. Yeah, I'm going to go with bacon.
Never have bacon again.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Last question. Would you rather give up ever being able to travel again? Give up ever being able to cook again?
Oh, never being able to cook again.
Easy.
Oh, yeah.
You'd travel the world and never cook yourself a meal.
Yeah. I'd get.
Do you
somebody
enjoy
to cook
cooking?
for me?
Yeah, true.
I do. I do. It's more of like a means to an end. It's not like, oh my gosh, here's my little, what do they put on your body when you don't want to get your clothes? Apron. I don't have one. And I don't enjoy that. I just like, I feel like cake. Well, I guess I should get in the kitchen and make some cake then.
Yeah, because it's not going to make itself.
Exactly.
Why did you have to say the
There's
C
some
word?
days I love the process. Yeah, now Mark's going to be craving cake all afternoon. There's sometimes I love the process of cooking and it feels so like therapeutic and meditative. And other times it's just like what you're saying. I'm like, I know I'll make this better than anyone. I know exactly what I need in making this. I don't want to make this. I just want it to be made.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. All right, Leanne, you made it through the Would You Rather questions. I so appreciate you being here today and talking through a lot of these keto myths and sharing some of your personal story. I know that people will get so much information from you here, but also, you know, your podcast is amazing. If you want to give us some plugs for all the places that people can find you and all the places for more resources that you offer.
Yeah, you bet. So my blog is healthfulpursuit.com. I also have a podcast called The Keto Diet Podcast. I know, super original. And then my book is called The Keto Diet. And I have an Instagram that's Healthful Pursuit. And I'm pretty sure I forgot 5 other things, but I always do that. If you search for Leanne on Google, you'll find a bunch of things I'm doing. Maybe Leanne Vogel.
And
not popular enough that you can search for Leanne and it shows up.
And the Happy Keto Diet program, are you doing that cyclically or like how is that working?
Yeah,
Happy Keto Body. Did I say that right? I'm sorry.
That's close enough. Happy Keto Body will be launching sometime-ish soonish. I'm not sure. But if you go to happyketobody.com, there's a sign up there. And what will probably happen is we'll just release the program to the people that give us their email addresses. So if you want to know more information about it, you can go there. There's lots of info. And then to sign up so that you can know when it launches again, it's there to just press the little button to be notified and give me your email and I'll email you as soon as it launches again.
Amazing. Thank you again so much, Leanne, for being here. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. This was really fun.
Nice to see you again. But last time it was better because we were at Disneyland.
It's true. We should definitely do that again because Disney's way better than the hotel room.
Yeah, and you've got no place to go.
No, I really don't. Like, I actually don't.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Hello, Between Meals friends, taste buds, as I like to refer to you all. We just did an interview with Healthful Pursuits Leanne.
Yes, Leanne Vogel.
And when I say just did, wink, wink, huh? Wink. She was just here a second ago.
Or like 4 months ago, but you know, such is life of tasty yummies.
Well, such is life of running your own business, doing content creation. It's easy.
Till it's not.
Well, it's easy to record something. It's easy to shoot something, to edit it, put it together, make the notes, find the space for it. That's where life gets a little difficult. And you and I, just like Leanne, she said something in here that I thought was fantastic.
She said a lot of amazing things I loved.
Totally. But one thing that has just been a theme in my life, your life, it's been a sense of empowerment when I can focus on it, and it's been a cause of depression when I forget about it, is the mission over metrics. And
she didn't say that. I said that. Those are my words. Credit where credit is due, bud.
Pretty sure she said it in this recording as well.
Go back.
Well,
Go back and listen.
Can't do it right now.
Pause. Rewind. I said it, but I'm pretty certain. It doesn't really actually matter, though.
It does to you, though.
No, I'm just because it's literally like, this is what we get for 4 months later recording, not even being sure who said anything, even though we both listened to this recording in the last 24 hours.
Well, I could have swore that she said it.
It doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't matter, but it's a reoccurring theme in everybody's world. And when something like this comes out late, you can get things out, you can do things really, really fast, but you have to be focused on what your mission is. And sometimes we all have a ton of things we want to get to, but it's doing it in the order that makes the most amount of sense.
Well, yeah. And to be completely honest, there was a little bit of strategery, to quote Fake's Alec Trebek on SNL.
Yep.
on my part, because, Leanne and I had been discussing for quite some time having her on the podcast. And I had recently, prior to actually recording this podcast episode, I had done a Q&A on my Instagram stories of just like answering people's questions around keto and keto myths. And it felt like a really good time to get Leanne into the quote virtual studio.
Yeah.
And have sort of the queen of keto bust some myths with me.
Whenever you can bring royalty on your show, always bring royalty on.
Always do it. But that said, the strategy comes in part from I was working on, or at the beginning stages of thinking about my ebook. And then when we got to the point where I was ready to edit the podcast and put it out, the ebook was nearly done. And I just thought, if we're going to be talking about a topic such as keto that I'm deeply invested in personally, and now I wrote an ebook about it, and some of the ebook talks about some of these myths, as does the kind of nurture sequence of emails. I wanted to be smart and have this podcast come out to support the ebook, and not have it come out and then have me realize it was a perfect opportunity to promote my free ebook. So
keep it simple, keto. Free download. Get it now.
Free download. So then it became less about, oh my God, it's so much work, and more about like, be strategic and don't blow something out of the water. That's a good opportunity to promote this thing I worked so effing hard on.
I know, as a podcaster that's been doing this now hundreds and hundreds of episodes, over 800 if we're counting.
Who's counting?
Not me. When you interview someone, in your mind, you have this vision of how that interview is going to go, and all these amazing topics that you're going to be able to get through, and you're going to be able to cover it all.
Are always so different than how shows go.
Show notes are very ambitious. I've learned to really like edit them down, because I now know about realistically how much you can get through an hour with somebody, especially if you're willing to have a fun conversation that's easy for the listener to get into. So I know that when this was done, there were some things you're like, oh, I wish we could have talked about this. I wish I would have brought up that. What are some of the things that you feel like didn't get into this interview that you really wanted to get out to your audience?
Wow. Well, there was a lot, because I got a lot of questions, which, was partially what helped inform the work I was currently doing on the ebook I was working on, but also this larger program of mine that will be coming out early next year. But I really wanted to kind of like sit down and discuss it with somebody who's written several programs and books and ebooks on the topic. But as you said, you get talking and you get to sharing personal experiences and stories, and I talk too much, and, you run out of time. But some of the main things that I think people ask about keto that come up very often is that, a lot of people, I think, believe or are told that intermittent fasting is necessary, or it's a required part of eating a keto focused diet.
Yeah.
And I just want people to know that it definitely is not. And for some people, it may work against what their goals are. But I think for a lot of people, when you shift towards a lower carbohydrate focused way of eating, when you shift away from sugar and refined carbohydrates being your main source of fuel, and you increase your quality proteins and you increase your quality fats, by virtue of all of those things, you just become more satiated and more content in your food.
Sure.
So you aren't snacking. You aren't looking for food all the time. You won't be as hungry. And often I think people end up adopting intermittent fasting or time restricted eating inadvertently. Often I'll wake up and I'm like, I'm just not hungry. Like, I'm not hungry because my body isn't in this loop of constantly running on glucose, which releases insulin. We've talked about it all before, which causes that drop, which often is what makes us just more hungry, more in need of more fuel.
I can remember when you first started going down this road, your body was switching. I was still carb loading. And I would literally 100%, I would be hungry. Like, my stomach would be telling me that I'm hungry.
Well,
and you would say to me,
same thing.
You would say to me, there's no way you could be hungry right now.
Yeah. This was a big issue.
And that would make me so mad. I'm like, how do you know if I'm hungry or not? I'm a bio individual and I have a different schedule of hunger, but it was because of the carb loading. I was burning through everything quicker than you, and I was hungry, but it was hard to figure out why I was on such a different pattern than you were.
Well, it was confusing to me because you would often say you were hungry after dinner.
Yeah.
and I would make dinner, and dinner would be in line with how I eat, which is lower carbohydrate, protein, vegetable focused, quality fats. But what I wasn't taking into account is how you were eating all day long. And so often, sandwiches, cereals, bread, snacks of other crackery type situations. And therefore your body, even though I was giving you a keto focused dinner, was still looped in as a sugar burner, burning glucose. And so you would be doing that all day. Then I would give you a dinner without any carbohydrates. And your body's like, sweet, that thing I need to run on, we don't have any. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
And so I used to get mad because I'm like, you are not hungry. You are not hungry. I just ate the same thing as you. Suck it up. And it kind of took me through like, I think it was part of the stuff I was learning in school. No, I was out of school at the time. All I know is I just remember one day being like really understanding blood sugar and blood sugar management. And I just remember thinking, he is hungry.
Yeah.
He's not fat fueled. It was an eye opener.
Yeah, it was stressful to go through of being hungry and being told that you're not. Like, it's not a fun thing to experience because I'm like, I know what my body's feeling right now and I don't want to fight about this. But you're in a different position when you eat differently, and the body literally, the log theory that you've talked about before, if you give your body the proper foods, then you get energy that burns all day long versus the kindling, which is just, these hot flashes of power. And then you're all tuckered out. 2 o'clock, you're crashing.
You're all tuckered out, little buddy. I mean, so I think to the point of intermittent fasting, like just to kind of get back to that question, I think that, it's not required by any means. For a lot of people, intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating can help them get into ketosis faster because, there are several different ways to get the body into burning fat, protein, ketones, ketones as its main source of fuel. Reducing your carbohydrates is the number one way that most people are approaching keto. But oftentimes when you just restrict food in general, it just naturally. So many people that are eating a standard American diet, if they had a blood ketone monitor, would wake up and find that they may be in ketosis. They may be in ketosis till their first meal. Doesn't mean that they're keto, quote unquote, or that they're getting the benefits, because if they turn around after being in a forced ketosis by virtue of limiting food, and then turn around and eat a donut, it's actually pretty bad for you to go from one extreme to the other. But my point is that for many people, they adopt that approach as part of their therapeutic approach to eating keto. And for some people, as I started this whole conversation with, they just end up doing that because they're just satiated and their body's getting everything it needs. And then it just becomes I will eat when I'm ready. And you just want to make sure that you're still getting enough calories in your day, because one of the worst things you can do for yourself is undereat. Because that can sabotage your goals no matter what way that you're eating. So I think that that's just kind of something important to note. Some of the other things that I think people asked, there were a lot of questions about keto and women and hormones.
Yeah, ask me. Go ahead.
How are your hormones, Mark?
They're great as a woman.
Great. I actually have some content planned for future episodes, so I don't really think that it's an easy topic to get into.
Sure, you can't just skim across that one.
No, and Leanne has done a lot of wonderful work in the space of keto with women and thyroid hormones and understanding it. What I will say is that if you have an underlying thyroid condition or PCOS, keto can be very beneficial to you, and there's a lot of research and anecdotal research that shows it brings improvement for a lot of people. But I just suggest, especially with underlying thyroid issues, that you just be working with a professional that has experience in this form of eating, only because you don't want to be causing more harm than good. And there's definitely some concerns with lower carb eating, reducing your T3 production. And those are all concerns when you're Hashimoto's or hypothyroid. So I tell people when they download my keto ebook, my Keep It Simple Keto ebook, there's a quiz to determine if keto is right for you. And that's kind of actually one of the other questions that I wanted to touch on briefly. Was,
hold on, I'm still writing down notes from the last one.
Your hormones.
Yeah. Terminator 3.
Quasimodo.
Go ahead. I got these written down.
Well, damn it. Now I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, but it was worth it.
It was worth it.
While you're trying to figure out your train of thought, I'll tell you something I've been doing that's been working wonders for me. I have started fasting between meals, and it's just been the greatest.
Fasting between meals?
Yes. It has been the greatest thing I've ever done. It's pretty easy. You have a meal, and then you just wait a while, and you have another meal, and in between you just fast.
Well, that's very great advice. Thank you so much for that. I did remember what I was thinking. So
it's also part of my new book, Live Fast, Die Younger. Go ahead.
Okay. My point is that at the start of Keep It Simple Keto, I have a 1-minute quiz to just determine if keto is right for you. And
just to kick the tires and see if you might be a good fit for it. And that's smart.
To be honest, it's not if keto is right for you. It's if my oversimplified, super approachable, super sustainable, guy off the street, free ebook version of keto is right for you.
Right.
Because I want it to be something that people can manage. Not everybody has underlying autoimmune. Not everybody has type 2 diabetes. Not everybody is approaching keto because they have cancer or epilepsy or any number of the other reasons it's used therapeutically. So I think if you're just looking to feel better, maybe lose some fat, maybe have more energy and cognitive benefits, I want people to know like some things to note. And so some of the things that I say that I believe that it may not be right for is somebody with underlying thyroid conditions. And that's just that the super simplified version that I present in that ebook is probably not the best approach for you. But working one-on-one with a nutritionist or a healthcare practitioner that will sort of personalize your approach for you, I think it's incredible. So I think, obviously, if you're pregnant or you are nursing, you probably should work with somebody on addressing your nutrition in this way. So there's lots of different things in that manner. But I just kind of wanted to touch on that because I think that a lot of people just hear rumors that if you're a woman, you shouldn't do keto, or if you're a woman with hormone imbalances. And as Leanne touched on, Leanne had severe hormone imbalances. She didn't get her period for years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until she found keto that her hormones balanced out. I mean, fat and protein are the building blocks of our hormones. So to have a dietary approach that is focused on including quality fats and proteins, it's going to do great for you. But you have to be working with somebody to kind of custom tailor it to your needs.
And I just really wish people would cut out the keto gender shaming.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge problem.
Is it really?
I don't. Well, I was just playing along.
Oh, you got me on that one.
I got you.
I didn't know if I'd accidentally stumbled into something that's a real topic.
No, what is a topic is there are people that are just women should never do keto.
Yeah.
Just as they say people that do CrossFit
women should never vote.
Correct. Those people as well.
Yeah.
Women or people who CrossFit or do high intensity workouts should never keto. People that do marathons should never keto. And I just don't think that that's true. I think a lot of these people need to take special considerations and because I am a marathon runner and I am putting my body through this. I should be paying attention to these certain things. I understand that. But the blanket statements, one of the things that was talked about in this episode was the theory or the concept of food police. Yeah. Right? And that's a thing. It is a thing. And I know from back in the day when you're a young guy and you get into straight edge and that leads into vegetarian and then some people go into vegan. There's just so many people that are so caught up in the titles. The rules. Yep. They want to be something. I'm CrossFit. I'm keto. Yep. I'm this. And it's like, dude, the only person you're trying to impress is yourself. Well, your body can be keto. Your body can be in a state of ketosis. Yeah. And that, if we want to get technical, can be somewhat black and white. But that's sort of my thought is that if we want to get super super specific about all of this stuff, and if you are approaching it because you have type 2 diabetes or cancer or a myriad of other situations that require keto as a therapeutic approach, then as Leanne said in this episode, utilizing blood ketone monitors and really watching every little detail. This is who it's important for. But for the rest of us, when somebody looks at a food and says, oh, that's not keto, it's like a food can't be keto. A food can be appropriate for a keto approach to eating, but keto is a state in the body. So a food can't be keto or not keto. It can be lower carb, which may be beneficial to your keto approach, but Is honey keto? I don't know. What approach to keto are you taking? Are you including X amount of carbohydrates in a day to carb up from your high intensity CrossFit workout? Then technically, if you remain in ketosis and do carb ups to replace the glucose that was burned in your high intensity workout, and honey is the choice that you make, then technically honey's keto.
I talked to that little honey guy, and he was wanting to lose a couple pounds, and he was thinking about this diet. Here's where you're wrong, though, because I was at Whole Foods 365 just yesterday.
You were. I was with you. I saw you there.
And please stop following me. It's creepy. And I saw bacon, and the bacon clearly said on it, keto. It had a sticker.
It didn't. It said paleo.
Oh, paleo. Damn it.
And it's a little different with paleo because I was thinking about this morning in the shower because I was like, right. I was thinking about this logic of like foods can't be keto because keto is a state in the body. Whereas paleo, it's different because paleo is about food quality, right? So paleo is an approach to eating where we're not having vegetable oils and refined flours and grains and beans. And so a food actually technically can be paleo because if a bacon doesn't have sugar, then it's a paleo friendly bacon.
Got it. My bad.
There, it's like there's all these gray areas and it's just all stupid. And I just think, if you find an approach that works for you and you can sustain it and your goals are met, then that's the most beautiful thing in the world. Yeah. Because you found something you can do. And then to be fluid with that and be able to change as necessary, that's the goal, right?
It is the goal. And when you see these stickers, this bacon's paleo, it just takes me back to, if it's a green box, then that means it's got to be healthy.
Well, it's natural, bro.
I mean, if it's a green box, you're good. The snack wells, they come in a green box. How could they ever?
I mean, it's more of the same. And listen, I understand the importance of having some amount of rules, especially for people that are navigating a world they're unfamiliar with, like there's some benefits to it, but I think it's gotten out of control. And I think that we just need to remember ultimately, like if you find an approach that works for you, I don't believe in cheating, but I think if you approach your diet...
As your husband, I'm glad to hear that.
Cheating on your diet.
Oh, okay.
The terminology of it is more what I don't believe in, and we've talked about it previously. But my point is that said, it's not really fair for me to say, I don't think people should cheat do cheat days, excuse me. Because if somebody follows a ketogenic approach, and my concern is always food quality, if they're doing it appropriately and their version of a cheat day on the weekend is to include some honey in a high quality baked good that they made that's grain free.
I always like your idea of
I'm just saying, like, if that's somebody's idea of a
half
cheat,
an apple and be bad.
Well, I mean, it's all very different for every person. My point is that if that's somebody's version of a cheat, who am I to say that that's wrong or the bad way to approach keto? Because if that works for them and then the approach for them is sustainable, then that's great. But what I do encourage people to do is to look at their approach, whatever it is, whether we're talking about keto or paleo or Whole30 or just fucking eating real food that makes you feel good. You just got to listen to your body, you just have to do what works for you and shut all the noise out of these rules. And, people like me and Leanne and other people that create content and ebooks and programs for you, like it's a guide. But ultimately, if you're tracking how you're feeling, and as she said, journaling, or as I suggest in my ebook, keeping a food journal and a food and mood journal, like if you're listening to what your body needs, there's really no wrong answers.
It's what I always tell my audience, and this is a designer way to say it. You can go through life, Apple C and Apple V your heart away. Cut and paste, cut and paste, cut and paste. But don't ever select all. Apple A only makes you into a grade A asshole. Like you have to go through life.
You know how you're on my podcast to like slow it down for the people that are like, hold on, what the hell is keto?
Yeah.
Pause. Apple
C is copy. Apple V is paste.
Right. So you are saying
copy and paste.
Copy and paste all day long from other people's experiences.
Exactly.
Learn from their experiences. Learn from your own.
Exactly.
The worst thing you can do is Apple A, which is select all.
Select all.
Select all, then copy paste because it'll never fit into your document. Boom.
All is not good for y'all. And it's just the way that I always remember it.
All's not good for y'all.
Yeah, it's not. It's like everybody has their own thing that works out for them. And, part of being a bio individual is knowing this, Beth. Okay. Moving along. One of the things that I found interesting in this interview was the compare yourself to yourself.
Yeah, I loved that.
And that's a really, really good way of looking at, yes, there are people that were born of privilege and they have a lot of money and they went to fancy colleges and mom and dad put away money for them. And when they got married, the wedding was free and they got a wedding gift that was a down payment on a new home and you're renting. Are you really going to compare yourself to that person? That person was hundreds of thousands of dollars planned out in this world way ahead of you.
Yep.
And you're going to beat yourself up because you can't keep up with them.
Right.
If you look at yourself and go, but I've fought hard to get to where I'm at. I've earned everything I have. You are a complete success.
Yep.
Until you compare yourself to somebody else, and then you might start looking like a failure. I thought that was so smart, not only in health, but just in life.
Yeah.
Compare you to you because you're an individual.
Well, and that's how you measure progress, not by comparing I've talked about this before, but I've had people look at my quote before photo when I was at my heaviest weight and at my sickest. And I don't generally put those up as before and afters of like, look what I did, but it's more like I've come so far. And for me, it's an accomplishment, not just in the weight loss, but also in how far I've come in my health. And when people see my before and they shame me by saying, well, I would kill for my after to look like that. It's like, that's not fair. Like it's not a fair comparison because we're two different people. I could also look at a girl who's a size 0 and be like, well, I've done all this stuff over these last 10 plus years of discovering a gluten intolerance and managing autoimmune conditions and X, Y, and Z, and look at myself and compare myself to myself and be like, wow, I've done so much. Or I could look at the size 0 girl who's always been healthy and never had any issues and go into a downward spiral of shame of like, I'm not good enough because I'm not there yet. And so what I'm at now would be considered not a success.
Yes.
It's just stupid.
It's a really dangerous way to live your life. And unfortunately, through all the metrics that we see and all the numbers and stats and hearts and likes and retweets and follows, like it's real easy to be like, I'm a failure.
I think this is the danger in social media. As incredible as social media is, in the whole virtual world, I wouldn't have ever met people like Leanne or others in my space, or you for that matter. Without it, I think that there's a lot of danger. And it worries me for younger people that aren't, in a space confidence wise and cognitively and, literally their brains aren't fully developed. So they're not able to see these things that we can see. And when we go into that spiral of comparison or perfectionism, we can be like, fuck that shit. Close our app out, put the phone away and step aside and just kind of like check ourselves. It's sad for me that there's a whole generation of kids that will only ever know that.
Yeah, we walked into the front door of social media with a certain amount of real world
back door. I'm just saying,
with a certain amount of real world experience and self-esteem to where this was something that we were doing new. It didn't raise us. That is a very different thing. Well, wrapping up here, I think that a really great way to bring this whole conversation around is the whole conversation started with powerful, honest social media where you're really bearing your soul, sharing your real story with people. And that's when social media is its strongest. And I'm talking about Leanne and her photo that she put up of her in a bathing suit, not editing it, not putting filters on it, just told the husband, like, grab a camera, take a pic of me, and I'm putting it out. And I always really appreciate the people that know that it can be smoke and mirrors and you can pull a lot of fast ones on people through social media, but a bullshitter always can recognize another bullshitter. And I love when people go brutal and honest on social media. And I thought that was a really great post on her part, and more of that would make it all much better.
Agreed. #agreed. I don't know what else I can say to that.
Well, I have a couple of really quick would you rathers for you.
Oh, you're adding a secondary would you rather.
Yes.
Okay.
Because Leanne's life has changed since we did this recording, she now lives in a boat with her husband and her dogs.
Yeah, they bought a sailboat, I believe. Sold the RV.
Okay. So my question for you is, would you rather live in an RV where you're like Scooby-Doo and you're driving around solving mysteries, or would you rather settle down and settle into a sailboat?
Oh, 100% an RV. I get seasick.
The living in the boat thing, man.
I've been watching her stories, and they like, there's a whole other level that like I have never, ironically, she's like the second person that I follow that I'm like internet buds with that is living full time on a sailboat. There's something about that that's terrifying to me because the ocean is gigantic and scary. And I feel like, yeah, you have ways to call in to Coast Guard, but like if something happens, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere, or a big storm comes out of nowhere. Like the chances of that happening on the road and not having someone nearby is pretty slim. But also like you run out of food or you misgauge how long until the next, like there's just so many, like I'm a maniac and sometimes I'm like, let's just hit this coffee shop because this place sounds good today. Like you're in the middle of the ocean or wherever you're at. Like you're not just stopping somewhere to get coffee or just running into Whole Foods. Like it sounds so amazing and peaceful and so incredibly challenging to me as well.
I'm way more a driver than I am a sailor. Like,
well, you've never sailed, so that's a good
I've
point.
been on sailboats and I've been on them with you, so you've been a witness to it. But when I'm snorkeling, which isn't often, the entire time I feel like I'm a moment away from dying.
Yeah.
Like everything I'm doing is just to make sure that I don't die. I feel like living on water would be a similar like background stress of, well, don't forget to tie the double knot. Because if you don't,
you're dead.
We could just drift on out into the ocean while we sleep.
I get sweaty palms thinking about it, but also I do get seasick. And so like the motion sickness of my head, I just like, how do you sleep in something that's moving all the time?
Yeah. I mean,
I like was away this past week traveling and I had to take an elevator up and down from my room and it was on the sixth floor. And I got into my hotel, checked in, went up the elevator, got to my room. It smelled like cigarettes, took all my shit, went downstairs to be like, I want another room. So that was 2 trips in the elevator. Then they gave me a new room. And then I went back up to the 6th floor and got my new room. So 3 trips in about 5 minutes in an elevator. I had to lay on the bed because everything in my world was spinning and I had to close my eyes because I thought I was going to throw up. How you live in a boat? I have no idea.
Well, we have a water bed.
No, we don't. Stop being a creep.
My last one for you is this. Imagine if somebody said, here's a free RV. You can live in this free RV and there's a magic credit card. And every time you pull up to a gas pump, you put it in and you get free gas. Mm-hmm. So you have no rent and no expense on driving wherever you want to go. But there's one problem. The RV is geotagged and the credit card is locked to where it can never go into the border of the state known as California. Would you rather rent in California for the rest of your life and never get to own? Or would you rather have free living, free gas, but you can never come back to California?
This is a forever would you rather? Would you rather forever stay where we're at now? Or would I rather have an RV that I can go anywhere but California?
Yes, you can.
When does this start? Do I have like some time to prepare?
As soon as you say this, we're going to be at the edge of Arizona.
I think it's more scary to never leave a state than like, even though California is my favorite, clearly we live here. I've lived here now 5 years. I feel like I could live in an RV and see Colorado and Montana and like New Mexico and all these beautiful states that I've never really spent time in. That feels less like claustrophobic to me than and being like, oh, there's the border of California. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Because I could take that shit into Mexico and then like the Baja California Sur in Mexico and like get some California-esque vibes and then Northern California vibes in like Southern Oregon. And like, yeah, I would pick the RV because never leaving the state would be real weird.
I mean, you can leave the state. You're not stuck here.
You made it sound like I was.
You just have to live here. You just have to rent. You can still go back home and see your family.
Okay. I think I'd still pick the RV though.
Okay.
I feel like I like free stuff.
Okay. Well, everybody who's listening that doesn't live in California, I hope you had a good time listening to the show. I'll talk to you later.
What? I don't get it.
Now that they're gone, you're fucking crazy. Like you get so bored. Like this is as good as it gets.
Yeah, but
I'm going to drive to Montana.
Shut up. I like that you play Would You Rather with me and then shame me for my answer.
Yeah.
It's like you...
Because you were scared of heights when you flew.
Shut up. You purposely pick things that you think that you're going to trip me up on. And then like you already have a preconceived notion of like what's right and what's wrong. I don't like playing Would You Rather with you anymore. I'm done.
Okay.
Just kidding. Till next time. All right. I feel like the wrap up could just carry on. I do feel like a lot of you asked a lot more questions about keto, so we have some really fun episodes. I know I say this all the time, but we are finally moving into a place where between meals we'll theoretically, as long as I can keep everything flowing the way I want it to and my calendar and my business coach keep me in line, we will be moving to a once a week format. Some of them will be between meals bites and they'll be short format, more of the short format, like couple 25-minute me talking solo. Some will be just me and Mark, and some will be having guests. So I do have a lot of fun keto focused content coming your way. So we'll get to even more of your keto questions. And as always, continue to send them in. And please, if you love the show and you want to hear more of it, your support and your shares are what keep it going. So take some time to leave a review on iTunes, rate it, share it. If you're enjoying it, post it up in your stories or on your feed, because it, helps me get this to more people, and then it helps me be able to make more of
also, if you know that people are listening and enjoy it, it helps you on the long, hard days to be like,
why am I doing this?
I want to go record this. I want to put in the extra hours because it matters to somebody.
Yeah, I've been enjoying doing it, but I haven't been prioritizing it, and my calendar and my content creation schedule's been a little wonky with all the video content I've been creating, but switching things up a little for the last quarter of 2018 and going to be shooting, I almost said recording a lot more episodes. So I'm excited to finally be prioritizing it. And some of that is because I've been hearing from you guys that it's mattered so much, and talking in the private Facebook community that we've created. And I spoke at a conference this weekend and had people come up to me and literally with tears in their eyes tell me that parts of the show changed their perspective, and people have written and said they've started websites because of the business series we did. So I'm feeling fueled up and excited. So if there's things you want to hear, people you want to have interviewed on the show, please reach out. And as always, take care and be well.
Goodbye.
Bye.